Hey everyone, welcome to Inverse Happy Hour. My name is Jake, and we've got a very special guest today, Gary Shteyngart, author of Super Sad True Love Story, and a bunch of other books, Russian Debutante. And I'm really excited to have him here. He's got some rye, I've got some bourbon. We're going to have some drinks. Cheers.
Yeah.
We're gonna there, you got the whole bottle. There you go.
I'm going to start drinking from the bottle.
We're going to answer some questions, talk about writing, fiction, coronavirus, maybe a tiny bit. And then we're going to do a small reading from Super Sad True Love Story, which might feel a little too real these days, but who knows. So if you have any questions, please put them in the comments and I'll relay them to Gary Shteyngart so he can answer them as best as he can. Just to start, I wanted to ask, I'm sure you get this question a lot, but it feels like Super Sad True Love Story, which came out 10 years ago, predicted a lot of things.
Yeah.
How does it feel to have been so prescient about so many of the changes to society and technology?
Yeah. You know, I wrote the book around 2006. It came out around 2010. So it took about 10 years for all of this stuff to happen, or a lot of this stuff to get to happen. It started in 2006. I decided that I needed to go online and get a social media account, which back then was just MySpace, I think. MySpace.
Oh yeah, I remember MySpace.
And I was so bad at it that I had one of my students, this guy, he was my intern. He was a very attractive intern. Everyone called him the man-turn. He was very sexy. Since then, he's become a pretty good writer himself. He's a well-known writer. And the man-turn helped me understand social media. And so I got my first MySpace account. I think I got my first Facebook account. And I don't know, the moment I logged on, I thought, this is not going to end well. I don't know how I got that feeling, but the moment I was like trying to get my first like, and the moment I saw like my first bit of fake news, which happened like 3 seconds after I logged on, I thought, geez, this is not going to go so hot. So I started writing Super Sad True Love Story. And I mean, I would say a really great deal of it came true. Even tiny little details, like in the book, everyone wears these jeans that are completely transparent. And there was just a Paris fashion show. They're called onion skin jeans. And there was recently a Paris fashion show featuring exactly that kind of jean. So, you know, the only thing it almost happened was the U.S. is in a war with Venezuela. And I think we considered it, but it never.
We got pretty close. We got pretty close on that one recently, yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to ask as a follow-up, is there anything that from your book, Love Story, that you hope never happens? But maybe that's the answer.
Well, the book ends, not to give away too much from Super Sad True Love Story about what actually happens toward the end, but there is a kind of complete societal collapse where...
I guess we're not quite there yet. Yeah.
We're not quite there, but I can sort of see the path, you know, the more I think about it. I spend more than half the year in upstate New York, and I always top off the gas because there's just enough to make it to Canada, you know. Although now the border has just been closed, but I bet I can talk my way in. I'm very persuasive with border guards.
That's good. That's good. If you're just joining us again, this is Inverse Happy Hour. We've got Gary Shteyngart talking about his book Super Sad True Love Story, along with some of the other things he's written, like Lake Success. If you have any questions, please ask them. We did have a few questions about your watch, which I know you held up. Can you tell us a little more about it?
Oh, yeah. So in my last book, the main character is a watch collector and kind of a douchebag. I kind of have a little bit of a watch collection. I hope I'm not as big of a douchebag. But so this watch is made in Germany. It's a Nomos Minimatic. And it's got a cute little orange hand. It's just a very festive watch. Things are so depressing right now that this watch just reminds me that happier times are possible. And I guess it's all the blue and the orange, all that stuff just perks me up. Kind of like the cover of Super Sad, you know. It's got
it's a great,
so
it's a great
this
cover.
Watch and the book look very
right here.
look at that.
Oh, very nice. I wanted to ask, I know that there have been reports over the years about both Super Sad True Love Story and Lake Success getting some sort of TV adaptation.
So I can tell you that Super Sad, we're moving along at this point.
It's great.
It's I'm paired with a wonderful, wonderful writer and comedian, a very funny comedian named Whitney Cummings. I just love her. And she and I are working, it's been developed at HBO Max, the new streaming service from HBO. Cool. So we're working hard on it. It was in development before, but sort of the problem, as you mentioned, with Supersat, with any adaptation, is that things in the book are happening in real life so quickly that it's very hard to keep abreast of things. So in this adaptation, we've decided to not follow all the stuff in the book, and we're trying to make it happen like many, many decades in the future, because everything we're going to write is just going to take place in the next 2 years, if not 2 months. Yeah. So that's the idea. But it's really fun to work with someone like Whitney, because as a comedian, she really understands the humorous aspect of this. Yeah.
For anyone just joining us again, we've got Gary Shteyngart here on Inverse Happy Hour talking about Supersat Love Story, answering any questions you have. I did want to get a little more specific on that. As a novelist, what is it like turning your work into scripts for a TV show?
I love working on a TV show. I worked on Succession for a while.
Of course.
Yeah. I really love the format, and some novelists have trouble switching to TV, but because if you read my books, there's just so much dialogue and so many social situations. It's almost like I can't write the COVID novel because no one's talking to anyone else except like this. But all my books are so full of dialogue, and I always think in terms of dialogue. So for me, doing a transition from novels to TV is very easy. TV is also a very fun format. And it's so fast, because you don't have to describe anything. You can just write interior room day instead of, well, he walks into a room, there's an abason and a couch. And it's just so much more fun to be like, dialogue, yay!
Yeah. Nice. All right, here's another question from the audience. Oh, look, 1 second, let it come in. What is, from Thunder Toast, what's your secret for writing realistic and compelling dialogue?
Well, the key, and I teach writing at Columbia, although I don't know how we're ever going to teach again, but back in the old days, in the before times, we used to teach writing. So it's almost like being a doctor. You're always on call. So when you go out next time, whether it's a bar or you're talking to your parents or your children, whoever it is, write down the dialogue. When you hear something funny or compelling, write it down. Writers often think that they have to write dialogue so that it has to sound, like if you open up a 19th century novel, maybe people spoke like that in the 19th century. I hope not. But there's all this very florid language and et cetera, et cetera. But right now we speak in very quick sentences. The other thing you'll notice is that nobody really completes a long monologue unless we're doing something like this. Sure. People are always interrupting each other. Yeah. Nobody really gets their thought out. Often the fun thing is when people are talking and they talk at cross purposes. I'm trying to tell you my story, but you don't really give a damn, and you're trying to tell me your story. That's what a lot of conversations is these days, sort of, two ships passing in the night. Yeah. And in general, if you're writing comic fiction, the joke of comedy is that nobody really understands who they are. So, I think I'm a giraffe, but I'm really an aardvark. And I keep going around saying, I'm a giraffe. Look at me. I'm so tall. I'm a giraffe. I'm a giraffe. But meanwhile, I have this giant aardvark snout. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, okay. You're a giraffe. Great.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I guess, the key, right, is just when you hear something that sounds interesting, you should remember it and write it down. Again, if you're just tuning in, you're wondering what the hell's going on, this is Inverse Happy Hour with Gary Shteyngart, talking about Supersat Love Story, and please stick around because we're going to get a special little reading from that book at the end, which I'm very excited for. You did just mention your work on Succession, which I totally forgotten about, but I love that show. It seems to me like they brought a lot of different consultants in to sort of help fill out certain parts of that world. I'm curious, what was your role? What expertise were they looking for from you?
Well, I think the expertise I brought was having finished my last novel, Lake Success, which was all about a hedge fund guy. So I spent a lot of time sort of hanging out in this universe, which was very different from the usual universe I cover. Usually my heroes are these kind of nebbish schlubs, the kind of character I'm most familiar with and love dearly. But this time I decided to do a little differently, and Barry Cohen, the hero, is not like Lenny Abramov in Super Sad. He's not this, he's kind of a master of the universe, but he's running around, he's running away from his wife and his autistic kid and all this different stuff that's happening. So I guess the reason that book kind of came about is I usually write about Manhattan, and I realized that most of my friends were gone. There was nobody left except for hedge funders.
Yeah.
So I spent years and years hanging out with hedge fund guys, the occasional woman, but mostly they were men. And they were, just sort of hanging around with them and learning their douchey ways and how they saw themselves in relation to society. So Succession, of course, is about a Rupert Murdoch type family, and so there's a lot of stuff like that. Not just the details of the world, what it's like on a private plane, etc., but just how these worlds work. Now, granted, that in Succession, the family's a media family.
Yeah,
I basically know the world of finance, but there was a lot of there was enough similarity, I think, for me to hopefully add something to the story.
Yeah, that type of person, I guess. Right?
Yeah.
We do have sort of similar to what you just said. Someone just asked, what is it about the nebbish schlub that you love writing that character so much?
Well, write what you know, my high school teacher told me. I guess I'm not a nebbish schlub to begin. I mean, now, but I started out life in a kind of very schlubby way. I came to America when I was a kid. I didn't know English very well. I guess I still don't, but I'm trying.
You're doing pretty good.
I'm okay. And so, there was always this feeling of being a little bit apart from society, never quite understanding how to fit in. And so that's a natural kind of, nebbishy character. There's also a lot of room for that kind of character because now that, after Woody Allen married his daughter, there's, there's room for someone else who hasn't married their daughter, such as myself, to step in and have a little bit of that character going.
Sure. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think that you fit that role perfectly. It's great. No offense.
I'm trying.
I'll get there eventually myself.
You gotta, less hair loss.
Less hair.
Plus.
Okay, yeah, interesting. I don't know if I can do that. Anything you can tell us about the future of Succession? Are you involved at all?
Because I'm working so much on these other projects now, I'm not going to join them for the next season.
Okay, all right. Oh well.
But I do know a little bit. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. I can't give anything away, but
that's fair. I'm sure it's going to be good. That's good enough for me.
Yeah.
Let me just ask you one more question, and then I'm excited to get to this reading. And this is a broad one I've been asking everyone, which is, we're all sort of stuck at home. Maybe we're bored, maybe not, depending on how much responsibility we have. But do you have any sort of recommendations for books or movies, TV shows that you've been enjoying and that you think people might get a kick out of?
Yeah. So I guess I'm really late to the game, but I started watching Terrace House, that Japanese reality show.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God. It's so addictive, and it's so weird because literally nothing happens for hours on end. It's in a way a kind of mirror of how we're living all hunkered down in COVID, except this is obviously filmed before COVID. And so, it's a very simple premise. There's sort of 3 women, 3 men, all very young. Half of them are models. And they're in Tokyo or Hawaii, and they're all kind of like hanging out. And you're kind of wondering who's going to hook up with whom. But because it's Japan, which has one of the lowest fertility rates anywhere in the world, I think that's like 1.1 replacement rate or something. No one's having any babies. And similarly on the show, like almost no one hooks up. They'll talk about it. It's almost like reading like some kind of like reading an old Russian novel where so-and-so thinks they love so-and-so, but I don't know. Nah. So all these guys are dithering and dithering and dithering. And it's just hilarious. But for some reason, it's very captivating. So they'll go on these non-dates where they won't do anything. Maybe they'll hold hands, and then everyone goes nuts. Like, oh my God, oh my God. Minori Minori and Yokaru held hands for 3 seconds.
Wow.
And it's really funny. And there's like a Greek chorus. There's these other Japanese stars who analyze what's happened. And they're kind of like the really nasty Greek chorus. They make fun of everyone. So there's a little bit of an element. But even that is done in a very Japanese way, very civilly. Someone wrote, I thought I was an idiot for watching Terrace House. No, Terrace House is your PhD in I don't know, social behavior. And there's been a lot of, there's not like academic work being done on Terrace House. So people are very interested in it.
Cool. Oh, I got to check that out. I've heard of it, but after hearing that,
just invest at least 40 hours into it, because that's 40? When it starts to click in.
Okay, it's one of those shows.
So yeah, I would.
All right, it's one of those shows. Okay, so
it's one of those shows.
let's do this thing. So again, if you are just catching up now, this is Inverse Happy Hour with Gary Shteyngart. We've got some whiskey, and we're gonna read. Gary is gonna read the first couple pages of his great novel, Super Sad True Love Story. So as soon as you're ready, I don't know if you want to do a little intro. I know this is the beginning, so maybe we can just jump in.
Yeah, Super Sad True Love Story. Yay. The cover is the best part of this book. It's really a great cover. There was a whole focus group that participated in figuring out, what a cover of a book set in the future. And it's a love story between this older guy and this slightly younger woman, and he's computer illiterate. She's living in a very kind of socialized life. We like this because it looked like you could press buttons, right? And it's also like you could play Twister if you have dachshunds or something. It really is my favorite part of the book, and almost all the translations kept it. So whenever I see this, I'm like, yay!
Nice.
So I'll read a couple of pages. Sorry, I've had a little bit to drink, so I may start slurring words and whatnot. But here we go. So this is from Lenny Abramov, who is the kind of the Nebuch Schlub, I think a reader called him.
Yes.
He's the Nebuch Schlub of this.
Right.
Dearest diary, today I've made a major decision. I am never going to die. Others will die around me. They will be nullified. Nothing of their personality will remain. The light switch will be turned off. Their lives, their entirety, will be marked by glossy marble headstones bearing false summations. Her star shone brightly, never to be forgotten. He liked jazz. And these too will be lost in a coastal flood or get hacked to pieces by some genetically modified future turkey. Don't let them tell you life's a journey. A journey is when you end up somewhere. When I take the number 6 train to see my social worker, that's a journey. When I beg the pilot of this rickety United Continental Delta American plane currently trembling its way across the Atlantic Ocean to turn around and head straight back to Rome and into Eunice's Park's fickle arms, that's a journey. But wait, there's more, isn't there? There's our legacy. We don't die because our progeny lives on. The ritual passing of the DNA, mama's corkscrew curls, his daddy's lower lip. I believe the children are the future. I'm quoting here from The Greatest Love of All by 1980s pop diva Whitney Houston, track 9 of her eponymous first LP. Utter nonsense. The children are our future only in the most narrow, transitive sense. They are our future until they too perish. The song's next line, teach them well and let them lead the way, encourages an adult's relinquishing of selfhood in favor of future generations. The phrase, I live for my kids, for example, is tantamount to admitting that one will be dead shortly and that one's life, for all practical purposes, is already over. I'm gradually dying for my kids, would be more accurate. But what are our children? Lovely and fresh in their youth, blind to mortality, rolling around Eunice Park-like in the tall grass with their alabaster legs, fawns, sweet fawns, all of them gleaming in their dreamy plasticity at one with the outward simple nature of their world, and then, a brief almost half-century later, drooling on some poor nursemaid in an Arizona hospice. Nullified. Did you know that each peaceful natural death at age 81 is a tragedy? Everyday people, individuals, Americans, if that makes it more urgent for you, fall face down on the battlefield, never to get up again, never to exist again. These are complicated personalities, their cerebral cortexes shimmering with floating words, universes that would have floored our sheep-herding, fig-eating analog ancestors. These folks are minor deities, vessels of love, life givers, unsung geniuses, gods of the forge, getting up at 6:15 in the morning to fire up the coffee maker, mouthing silent prayers that they will live to see the next day, and the one after that, and then maybe Sarah's graduation, and then nullified. But not me, dear diary, lucky diary, undeserving diary. From this day forward, you will travel on the greatest adventure yet undertaken by a nervous, average man, 69 inches in height, 160 pounds in weight, with a slightly dangerous body max index of 23.9. Why from this day forward? Because yesterday I met Eunice Park, and she will sustain me through forever.